Hello everyone, this is Jasmine from JazzRazArt, and today I'll be showing you how to make comics starting with panels. How to make comics, step 1, we will be starting with panels. There are many different dimensions and sizes for a comic page, and it all depends on whether you decide to do print or webcomics or whatever you have your mind set on. If there is a specific type of printing or things you want to do, you can definitely look it up. There are standard sizes, and I recommend that you look into that before you start putting down the grid lines as I'm doing. But once you've picked a size, and I will put some suggestions in here for you. Now, make sure that you have your ruler on in Photoshop, and the way that you do that is Control or Command R. And when you see those numbers, the little grid bars at the top show up with the numbers on it, that is your ruler. And you can set it to inches, centimeters, however you like it, and those are in the Preferences and Settings panel. If you need to look it up, you can definitely do that. And once you do, you can click on the ruler and drag with your mouse or your pad or whatever and start dragging in some grid marks. Now, if you're not sure where to put grid marks for comics, there are many different rulers and grid marks and lines and templates that you can find online, and often you will need it to be for the size that you need, but I'm just doing a standard comic book size. What these grid marks will do is that they will help you to determine the size of your gutters, how it will fit within the size of the page, how much room is left on the outer corners of your page. This will differ between if you decide to do a web comic compared to doing a printing. A printing is different because you have to make sure everything will fit within marks and bleeds, but I'll get to that part later. So, once you have your ruler on with Command R or Control R, you click and drag from the corners and you will get these blue grid marks. If you want them to go away, you just press Control H and you won't see them again, but if you want to bring them back up to make sure everything's lining up the way it should, you just press Control H again. Now, I just decided to try and follow a loose template that I found on Google Images. Of course, if you want to be more precise, I'm sure there are PDFs you can download. You can look at actual comic pages for webcomics and things. You can look up the way Marvel does it, the way DC does it. Everyone does it a little bit differently, but if you want a standard size, you can definitely look it up. When I printed mine, I just went with what my teachers recommended and what I felt the size of the book would be good enough for my comic book, and it is a little bit smaller than average people's. But I also use different paper for my cover. It all depends on this. But yes, getting back to doing the grid lines, I just decided to go with very simple, very easy lines to follow to make a simple grid on this page. Now, as you can see, this way is 100% accurate when you're tracing it, but it's good enough when you're starting out, is to make sure you have all the lines lined up so you can just use your selection tool like the marquee tool in the square form or however you prefer. Once you have all these on, you can use the marquee tool and it will automatically snap to where you want to place your boxes. Make sure you have it on so that you can make multiple selections and the way you want to lay out your page. If you ever want to start again, you just press Control D or Command D and it will deselect everything. So as you can see here, I'm taking my marquee tool, dragging it out to the size of a panel I want and showing the different sizes and shapes you can make. For beginners, I recommend you start with just doing simple boxes. You don't want to get anything too fancy like the freeform panels, unless that's something you're interested in, then you can definitely dedicate your time to learning how to do that properly. I did switch over to my file for the size I want for my comic book that I have saved as my own template that I made when I was in college, and it's worked for me ever since. So here I'm just demonstrating, the different ways you can lay out a panel. It doesn't always have to be straightforward, big box, little box. It can be skinny, it can be narrow, it can be long, it can be wide, it can be a full page spread, whatever you'd like. And as you can see, when you go and you make all those selections, then what? How do you draw the boxes? The way you can do this is going to Edit, then you want to go scroll down and click on Stroke. From there, you will have the stroke options where you can put the width, whether you want it on the center line or whatever. The opacity, you click OK. Once you've set it to the right setting that you want, make sure that the color is the right color, and there you go. So once you press Control H or Command H, all the grid lines and the selections will disappear. So there you can make your panels. From there, you can just start drawing whatever you want to draw in your comic. Make sure that you lay out the panels in a way that makes sense to you for the story to flow. If you want time to feel like it's going a little bit faster, then maybe put shorter panels across the page and just do a play-by-play of a few seconds in time. If you want to feel like it's long, drawn out periods of time, maybe do big, long sections instead, like the top panel I have here, where you can do like seasons passing, like winter, spring, fall, summer, you know, just showing the different time periods. Make sure you can really have the storytelling aspect through the panels as much as the drawings, because how close you put the panels together with the gutters or not, or how far apart they are, can help you feel the passage of time or emotion or the urgency. So you can just go ahead and draw whatever you want. You can draw strictly within the panel, you can draw without staying in the panel the entire time, but just make sure that it stays within your guidelines. If you are printing it or posting it, in case it crops off your drawing, just make sure it's always within your lines, that you have enough space around it. But you can really just draw anything that you want. Just as an example, I'm just drawing a girl here, just showing her big flowing hair, just her sticking out a little bit outside. Of course, I would normally double check that it was within guidelines, but because this is just a tutorial, I'm only going through and doing a simple little drawing just as a sketch to give you the idea of possibilities you could do with your own comic. I know that comics are a big thing for me, and if you are too and you're really serious about it, you can definitely go into courses online or look at videos such as this on YouTube. I will be making more videos about comic tutorials, so make sure to stay tuned. This way you just get a quick little easy part of everything. You can see just a simple drawing. And this is more geared towards a big grand storytelling where you show the character. You can put speech bubbles, no speech bubbles, but here I'm just showing you the different potential of showing the character, introducing the character, putting her in a frame where we see her expression, trying to really encapsulate what she's feeling, what she's going through, stuff like that. You really want to make sure that you show the character and how they're feeling, how their environment affects that or reflects that. Maybe any of the objects or the important things like an email, a newspaper, or text, something like that. Make sure that it just really tells your story. This is a bit more of a drawn out, a little bit more of a, hey, this makes the reader think. Zoom in and zoom out, making sure you have close-ups, far away, are all important when doing comics as well. Now this is what I was talking about. If you wanted the pacing to be different, is how time passes or how urgent or quickly you want the story to progress. It's much different in doing visual graphic form than it is to show in like a movie or a book. You can't just say, oh, they did this very fast. You have to really show, not tell, when doing comics. And so you can do a page where it's just, you know, the quick little things where it goes along. So for this, I'm just going to draw a simple little tree here, you know, as the base of the background. it's going to be our staple for all of the panels. So I'll just draw a simple little tree and I will copy and paste it into each square here. Then, as you can see, I just start drawing a quick, this is simple, you can make it as detailed as you want, but for example's sake, I'm just drawing a bird's emerging into the frame, flying past, so you can tell it's frame by frame, kind of like an animation. It tells you how fast or how slow the moments are going. And so I'm just doing a little bit at a time, really starting to pull the bird in and have the bird fly out. So you can see this is a quick action. The gutters are close. The spaces between the panels are what gutters are. And the closer they are, the tighter, the more tension you feel, but the farther apart they are, the more relaxed it feels, or slow things feel. So for fast pace, you really want to make everything feel like it's going really quickly, that you have shot by shot what's happening, and make sure that everything feels tight. You can feel the tension through the drawing. Now another thing you can do is, if you really have been aching to do something a little bit different and you want to have those panels that cut into each other, that don't fit the norm, that just kind of spread out, they're more angular, they cut into each other, diagonal sides, or you really want it to be a unique shape, the way that you can do it if you want to be a little bit easier on you is you can make a selection, and then with your marquee tool, make a selection with your grid lines, and then you can take your, what I use is my polygonal lasso tool, and I will make my selections. Here you can see I was getting a little bit carried away with trying to figure out of laying it down the way I wanted it to, but I got the hang of it. So through a little bit of trial and error, yes, you can take this and you just click on the little vantage points there, the little lines, to make sure that everything is straight, and you can draw everything in the straight lines any direction you want, make them cut into each other. If you want like a unique shape, like a bursting bubble or one of those action comic book like punching pow bubbles or something like that to put a character in, you can do that, but it might be a little bit harder. So if you get like a shape tool or something that can help you out with that, just make sure that the lines are clean, that it's not really fuzzy around the edges, and that it looks nice and clean. And usually what these frames are used for are to really show action or to convey more of the story that you're going for. This one I just did like a simple, like I drew a girl, and in the next frame I drew a monster to show it's kind of like they're standing really close to each other. Maybe she's behind a door and it's on the other side, and to show tension. I wanted to build up tension, but this can be shown to show duality of different characters or the situation they're facing. It's kind of like a bam, bam, there it is kind of shot. These are very useful and used a lot in comic books, especially that have action like superhero comics. They don't always do that, but it is something that happens. Yes, another thing that panels can do is, besides pacing and everything, it can really show you the way that the character sees everything, the way you set the scene. This can be done in many different ways. I was just looking for the kind of frames that I would like. So I use like a big frame, and then I use a bit of a skinnier frame in between, and then a wide, big, large frame at the bottom. This can be done with showing characters, showing their environment, which is very important. Wide shots can help you express what's going on around them, whether they're in a bustling city that's in distress, or if they're at home. It sets the scene. Like when you're watching a show, you really want to think about it as you're telling a story in the most visual way that most people see is movies and TV. And the way that they often convey this is you will see the scene to show the setting and the place of where they are. So it could be at the main character's house or anything like that. Then you can show what the action is or who's in the scene. You can introduce them or show something important that happens without necessarily just saying, "Oh, you did this for me." You can just show the action. It's doing a zoom in shot, a close-up, to really show and emphasize what's important. And then you can kind of zoom out to show the all-encompassing shot, to incorporate everything that you were trying to put together before and continue to tell the story. I just drew a simple character with their love interest and showing that they're sitting together and that they're sitting on a bench. Then it shows one puts their hand on the other, and then it shows them sitting in this park watching the sunset on a bench. One's head is laying on the other. This is a good way of doing your storytelling. Zooming in and zooming out is very important. It shows the different ways that you're going to express, especially the way you're going to tell. You can reuse backgrounds here if you have backgrounds that you've made before, which is really helpful, so you don't have to draw the same bedroom or the same thing a million times. You can draw it once in like a bunch of different angles and just keep using it. Work smarter, not harder. Especially in comics, you need to save time. Time management is a huge thing in comics. You will be drawing multiple panels, which is like drawing multiple illustrations, full illustrations every day. So make sure you're really trying to save your time. Well, that about sums it up for me doing a section on panels. As you can see, I have a few examples. Not all of them are fully fledged comic book art, but yes, these are a bit of the different things that you can do over time, and these are all my comics that you can find. Alright, thank you so much you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Please make sure to like this video and to subscribe for more content like this.